Hey, this is Cherish. Welcome back to the channel. I am excited to talk to you today. I always say I'm excited, even when I'm not excited, but I am excited this time. I took a break from my painting, this painting right here. I took a break from it about 2 weeks now. I've been taking a break, and I think I've been doing it because it was like I'm painting this painting, the one painting, for so long. And yes, there are different dogs in the painting, and that's great. But I wasn't doing anything else. I wasn't doing any sketchbooking. I wasn't doing any, going out to draw. I wasn't doing anything besides painting the dog painting. And so that's one of the reasons why I haven't posted, because I was just like, it's still dogs. It's still dogs. So I took the opportunity. It is funny because I took the opportunity during a heat wave to go out to paint. And the funny part was I mean, it was like over 100 degrees, and I had no idea that it was over 100 degrees. Like, I'm not recommending going out to paint in a heat wave. That's not the video. I stayed in the car with the air conditioner on, and every time I would turn off the car, like, okay, I'm gonna get out with my stuff and go do the thing. I was like, it is so hot that I just couldn't, my brain was like, stop. So I stayed in the car and started the painting it, and I'm calling it Holding On to Summer because I'm a summer baby. I love summer, and I'm gonna show you some stuff. I love summer, and I literally I was just literally kind of like, I needed this moment. Here's what I did. I actually started in the sketchbook, and I just started drawing on the couch. This might be kind of a sketchbook tour, who knows? Okay, so I started drawing on the couch, and I started with these guys, and they're just so wonky. The only thing about drawing on the couch is that everything kind of gets elongated because I have an astigmatism. And so everything, when I have the sketchbook like this on my lap, everything gets elongated. So when I draw for accuracy, it's like this, straight up and down. So, and then I got into this weird little drawing, and it was just of this road that we were on when we were on vacation. And the funny part about the road was that it was a 157 in the middle of nowhere, like in Santa Barbara. And I remember distinctly my husband took this picture out of the window as we were driving, but it was over this like bridge in the middle of nowhere with like falling rock signs, and it was just wild. And there was like a lake or something, and I was just like, get me out of here. I was driving, of course, so I couldn't, freak out, but there was freak out. And then this is another one. So this is kind of what I do when I'm in my sketchbook, and I just kind of play in there. Hi. I didn't know I was doing a sketchbook tour, otherwise I would have put it overhead. And then the day I was talking about, the day that I went out to draw, I drew this. So this was the first day, the first time I drew this scene. And you can see it just in pencil. I just went out, I just drew it, nothing crazy. Captured some trees. The park that I went to was so full of trees, it was just crazy. It was, I think when I finally counted how many trees were in the image that I took, that I used for my photo reference, there were 26 trees. So I had to get rid, I had to edit like crazy. But you can see it's like it's a good park day, Let me just make sure you're in. It's a good park day. Nothing crazy good or bad about that drawing. And then somewhere in there, I got kind of like pulled in. I got, I do that. I get pulled into the moment, and then I'm just stuck in there, and I'm like, I have to work through it, and I have to figure out what I'm missing. What am I missing about this moment? What do I love about this moment? That's kind of the vibe. So then I did this one. I don't know if you can see that one. So I did that one. Same thing. It was a tree, the tree painting. And then I did the one next to it, or two next to them. So you can see how it's becoming more clear. There's two drawings here. So this drawing, you can see the path a little bit better. You can see the trees a little bit better. I guess I was just getting into the idea of like this tree, the path, the way your eye moved around in there. And it kind of led me to thinking about composition and how you can kind of, you know, it's not just composition, but like editing things down and then figuring out like a, you know, what's the sum of this? What's the actual vibe that you're looking for in here? And you can see I'm like in my sketchbook, you can see that I'm like searching for it. There's like 3 more drawings. So the one on the bottom, definitely more path. And then one on the top, well, I love this one. I did it in marker. And then this one on the side. The one on the side here, this one, I feel like that was when I was starting to get it. And then I had this one here where, and I don't care, like I just kind of draw whatever in my sketchbook. I was like, oh, I love that. I love this pathway tree moment that's happening there. And so I really tried to kind of I went from here to here, and I really tried to like express this pathway and how the trees kind of surround it. And then here, I just got a little bit more into that and into how I was using the markers. I was using the markers kind of up and down to express the shadow. And then the trees, and I kind of love a really tonal drawing before getting into color. So I did that. So then I did this one. Oops. So then I did this one. This one I love. This one I really love. I thought it was great. I love the composition. I love the tonal quality of the pathway and the shadows and everything. And I was just like, yes, that's it. So then after I did that one, I did this one. This is the first one in full color. You can see I did my little swatches and I got this little, like there's the path. There's the hills in the background and all the shadows and the trees that are coming in. I really love this one. I really love it so much. So, and then from there, I actually went to the library and did drawings in the library. So this one was in the library. Hold on a second. This one was in the library. Obviously not done, but it'll get there. And this one is of a photo of the library. I kind of love that one too, but I haven't taken those any further. And then I could tell that I was just playing with it because in my sketchbook, it became like these really super quick drawings, you know, just kind of, I wrote a note on it that says no focus, and I was just trying to like figure out like literally where's the focus, what am I looking at, what are we looking at? And then another one of just that inner bit with the pathway, and then I knew I had it. I always feel like there's a point in the drawing where I know I've got it. I know that I've got the drawing. I've got it in my head. I know the choreography, and I know that this is what it's going to be when it grows up. So then I did this color study. And I really love this color study. I love all the pattern that happens. Like, look at this pattern of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the trees, the way they meld together. Loved it so much. And I was just like, that's it. That's the thing. That's what I needed. I love that so much. So in working on the painting, since I did all that work before, there were certain things that I wanted to do there's certain things I wanted to do in the drawing, but also I didn't want to spend too much time drawing because I feel like you can overdraw a painting, especially when you want it to be somewhat loose. So I really just drew the bones of it. I knew that I wanted like a triangular composition, and you can see in the painting how the bases of the trees, the drawing, the bases of the trees add up to a triangle. The trees themselves lean in, so that lean in is a triangle, and then the way that things are kind of positioned in the middle of the panel, also a triangle. And then the other part is making sure that this is where the drawing really helped out, and making sure that the pathway was super defined in there, and making sure that it was, because the thing about the pathway was it was not just the pathway because it's pretty, but it also tells the story of distance. So you have that triangle, which is kind of your, like, this is where you start, and then the pathway tells you that there's depth and there's distance in the background. The one thing about the drawing that I didn't do was I didn't just copy the image from the photograph. I really worked a lot more from this. I worked a lot more from my color study. So in the beginning, there was really only the 3 trees. In my photograph, in the actual photograph of the trees, I counted them out, and I'm actually looking at it right now. I counted them out, and there were 26 trees in that photograph. So the reference was wildly full of trees. The color study only had 3 trees, and then the final has 3 trees and 2 kind of like 2.5 kind of trees in there. And the reason is really you just don't need it. Your eye is going to do a lot of the work in there. And it was funny because when I showed my husband, I brought him in, showed it to him, and he understood that there were a lot of trees in that view because of all the shadows, because the shadows were just kind of everywhere in the view. So he totally got that this was a shadow-filled clearing because there are a lot of trees here, even though there's only 3 trees that were actually in the image. So I love that about that. The drawing part was awesome for that. And, I did that. Yeah. So then we get into the first layer. And the first layer is never my favorite. It's not the thing that goes, yay, I want to start a painting today. I kind of like painting when you have your second layer, when you get to start modeling. That's what I really love of painting. The first layer is just, it's too wet, it's too everything. And I was using gouache for the painting, so I really felt like it wasn't sticking well, because the gouache I think I was using the Charvin gouache, and when it was wet, it would just kind of literally, like, I would try to add more color on, and it would just kind of be like, no, we're just gonna fall apart now, sorry. So I was like, nah. So and I don't know why I did it in gouache. I was thinking about doing it in oil paint. I don't know why I did it in gouache, because everything dried so fast that my palette was dry literally. It would dry literally as I was painting. So it was a bit extra. It would have been a good time to use oil paint, but using gouache, I think I really liked what I was getting out of the gouache texturally, so I continued with it. And I think the other thing about the gouache in the first layers was the thinness was really thin, was really, really thin. And it's always that way for me, where I feel like in the very beginning, like I could give up on this anytime. I could totally give up on this because it's just not doing what I want. So having that first layer be thin and washy and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of, block in everything, was great. But I literally had to move on to the second layer like super fast. So I think I took a break. I was just taking like, I just took like a 20-minute break, and it really was dry, like dry. And then I started on the second layer. The second layer was better than the first layer. And the reason for this is everything's already mapped out. I've got like my basic colors in there. I think the first thing that I really wanted to do was establish the sky, which is something that for some reason I'll do last on a lot of paintings. I don't know why I do it last, because I want the sky holes. I want to see the sky through the trees and everything. So establishing the sky was really helpful, because it just kind of laid that base color down, and then it gave me the ability to kind of build the trees on top of it, which I love that. And I'm a painter that paints all over, so I don't restrict what I'm working on in a session to just one thing. Like the vibe might be, oh, I want to finish this thing or define it a little bit more, but I will definitely work on other things while I'm doing that. So you know, to me, everything kind of builds up at the same time, if that makes sense. I think the only thing that I didn't build up was a tree on the left. The other two trees, I think I was working really hard on those trees, and then I left the build up to that last tree to the end, and I really did like it. I liked it. I tend to do that where I like one part of the painting a lot better than I like other parts of the painting, and I don't know why I do that. It's just something that I do. I think the other part was making sure that I had the background really defined, because I knew that I had to paint on top of it. So having the shadows be defined, having things kind of just work in that second layer. That to me, that the second layer is kind of where if it doesn't work in the second layer, then you probably have a problem. You probably have a drawing problem or something like that. And I think I get around that by doing so many sketches up front. And the sketches they're not sketches that I'm doing for hours, or sketches that I'm doing for minutes that add up to the composition being defined and, you know, color being defined and all that kind of stuff. So I knew that, but I also still made some mistakes. One of the biggest mistakes that I made was that I made the shadows in the foreground too light and the shadows in the background too dark, which, you know, I don't know why I did that. I don't know at all, because anything that's closer to you, you're going to have more definition. You're going to see it better because it's right here. It's right close to you. So anything that goes off into the distance, that's going to be influenced by the atmosphere. So its shadow might be a bluish green, you know, a bluish green color. I'm trying to look for it. As opposed to the darker blue, the darker green that you're going to get in the foreground. So there was a point in this painting where I literally had to repaint all the shadows in the foreground and the background because they were just the wrong saturation. They were the wrong intensity. And I thought it was okay, but I also thought, you know, I messed this up, you know, I really messed this up. But what was good about that was going between the second layer and the third layer, because I had some base under there, some paint, you know, something under there for the paint to grab onto. And because I was using less water in my mixes, I was able to get, I think, a more refinement in the color, more saturation. You know, it's not something where I'm like, this is opaque. It's more like this is a buildup of color. So I was able to use the fact that I had a dark shadow and not just draw a whole block of shadow in one color. I drew or painted inside of that shadow to kind of bring it, you know, to add the atmosphere in the middle of it, so that you would get that as you were looking at that. So one thing I didn't think about when I was working on this was the difference between the surface that I was working on the panel. So here's the painting. Look at my baby. Look at how cute. So I love how it came out. Love it. But I think one thing that I didn't consider with the gouache was how the gouache would react to paper mounted on a board. So this is a panel. So you can see it's mounted on board. And then using the gouache on paper, it kind of acted differently. So it acted in a different way. And so it, you know, they have different vibes. They have different vibes. I think that's the best way to say it. The two paintings have different vibes. The one on the panel is like a thicker feeling, more robust, more textural. The one on the paper is a lot more watercolory. Oops, here we go. A lot more watercolory. And I think that that's a good thing to know going forward. the way the paper reacts to the wash of water on the paper mounted on panel. Like the panel, for some reason, it sucks in that water, so it really holds the form. It holds the shape, and it holds the water really well. I think that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm searching for in that. I think the other thing is how this built up was a lot more thick. And I now know that I like the painting to be like a lot more body in the painting or in the paint itself. So as I go forward and as I do more paintings with gouache, I'm going to consider that when I do it. Like, I like it to be like almost dry brush, you know? It's probably a signal to just use oil paint, but I haven't even tried a landscape in oil paint yet. I don't know why, but one day I will, and then I'll be like, so I tried a landscape in oil paint. And it was outstanding. Right now, I'm in this gouache phase, and I'm okay with the gouache phase. So talking about refinements, talking about how I went in and refined this painting. One of my favorite things about the painting was how I kind of refined the shadows along this pathway, and also how I kind of I really love this tree. I love this tree. I love these trees too, but I love that tree, and I love the fact that it's so kind of like, you know, understated, just whoop whoop, you know. My husband asked me if I was going to make it darker, and I was like, no, it's fine. It's good as is, and I love it as is. And I love it in the context of the other two trees as is as well. So that's one of those things where it's just like, when you hear hear people say that to find your style, to find the things like that, you find it through doing the work, you find it through the painting, that's what they mean. I would never have known that I love a tree that does this in particular if I hadn't have painted the tree this way. And that for me will be a style thing, you know? And that's okay. I mean, look at her close up. Look at her close up. It's Let me get out of there. There we go. Other thing in refinements is just finding a few more shapes in there. That was really good for me. I loved it. I loved, I think the other thing was when I finished this painting, I literally sealed it the next day because it was 112. So I'm like, you're cured, you're fine. And I sealed it with wax, with cold wax medium. It's way over there. I sealed it with cold wax medium, and I love the finish on it. So normally you get this, like, you see that it's like a shine, but it's a dull shine. It's not a reflective shine. It's not shining any light back at you, and it's a dull finish. So everything looks a little bit more saturated, but not like a resin pour. I feel like a lot of the times when I use a satin, or, you know, when I use a varnish and it's like just, you know, shiny as heck, I feel like it takes away a little bit because it becomes about the varnish, more about the varnish and less about the painting itself. So I really do like the wax finish on this because it's really low shine. I think, yeah, this one is not, this one's not wax, but this one is a mix of the satin and matte, and it kind of does, you see it does the same thing where it doesn't offer much shine, and I like that. I want my paintings always to look like my paintings when I'm done, and not like a shiny varnish thing. You know? And I think you just learn that by playing with the varnish. Like, what, you know, I like one part satin to 3 parts matte, and I might get rid of the satin altogether because I really like a matte finish, and I like it. And the wax, the cold wax, adds a layer, adds like a texture. It adds like something you can feel on the front that feels a little bit different, that I really love. And I think the gouache, the way that I ended up with the gouache on this one, the gouache on this is pretty thick by itself. Like, I can literally hold it this way and like look down the front and I can see it. And when I felt it before, it kind of felt like dry and chalky. That's what's the feeling of it before. And I just loved it. I was like, oh, I need this. I need to keep this. So when I added the cold wax, I was just like, please don't like disintegrate. Like, don't disintegrate my painting. I had tried it on the other one, the head that I did, and it kind of changed one part of the painting, and I didn't really like that. So I was like, you know, praying that it wouldn't disintegrate this painting, and it didn't. So I'm excited. But I love this. I love the process of doing it. I'm gonna load I think the whole video is 2 hours long. I'm gonna load that up so that you can watch it. So that'll be available next week. So if you want to take a look at it and do the whole thing, there'll be a link, and I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, have a good day. I miss talking to you guys, so I'm back. Love you so much. Mwah, 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 mwah. Talk to you next week.